Sorry about this little delay, but I think we are gathered. I will paste, our agenda for this morning in the chat, just to remind everyone. It's great to have such a great crowd on a gloomy morning in Sarajevo, but hopefully we'll have some winter wonderland everywhere across Europe soon. Today we are going to speak about research development. This meeting is a part of EDIRE Project, Horizon Europe Project. EDIRE stands for Equality, Diversity, Inclusion for Research Enhancement. It is a project that is within the twinning part of the Horizon Europe. And we in Sarajevo, at University Sarajevo School of Science and Technology, are working with 4 EU partners. So to name them here today, we have University of Genoa, who is actually coordinating the work package that this meeting is a part of. Then we have Complutense University in Madrid. We have University of Reims and Technical University Reims in France, and then Technical University of Dublin from Ireland. So the idea is this is a 3-year project. We are now in our 3rd year. And the idea is to use the knowledge of our EU counterparts to help us strengthen our research capacities here in Sarajevo, but not just at our institution, which we were doing very diligently over the past 2 years and with the great help of our partners, but also to communicate our lessons learned and our experiences in this process. So then the greater community of university from not just our country, Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also from our region, Western Balkans, can learn from, because, a lot of us are hoping for integration, tighter integration with the European Union research landscape. So I'm the coordinator of the project, so that's why I'm saying this welcoming words. So thank you very much for being here today, and I hope we will start collaborating with some of you, because I don't know many of the people in the meeting today. But then I would give the floor to our partners from University of Genoa, Professor Angela and Carla, who will tell us a bit more about this particular activity, which is within the work package 5 of our project, which is about strengthening our research unit here at the university. So please, Genoa, the floor is yours.
Carla is the reference for this work package, and she had spent a lot of time and work to organize this different meeting, because we start the last year to define the items of this different work package, then to define the calendar of the different meeting, and then now we are arrived to the final point, which is possible to share with other partners from West Balkans of our activity. And I hope that this meeting will be a first step for future collaboration. Thanks, Carla, for your work, and can start to present the other people present today, what we mean with this work package and what are the goals, and at what point we arrive. Thank you very much.
Then good morning, everyone. Thanks, Yasminka and Angela, for the introduction. So I will have a couple of slides to share with you to try to represent to you what brought us here today, and to try to tell you what we've been doing within work package number 5. Okay, so actually, Yasminka, our PI, already described, said something about EDIRE, so our project. So you've been told that the main idea behind EDIRE is to support and boost excellence of SST, but specifically through enhancing EDI component in research and also research management. So to develop new tools and instruments and also lines of research that are sensitive towards equality, diversity, and inclusion. So each issues such as gender, ethnicity, religion, many factors. So this is the whole design, I would say, behind our project. And as Professor Yasmin already told us, the activity of today, this meeting, is somehow very much related to what we are doing within work package number 5. Work package number 5 is specifically dedicated to expertise development in research management and fundraising. So is very much dedicated to the administrative part of research at SST. And the idea behind this whole work package is to foster the collaboration between the other partners and SST. One of the main goals of this work package was to create and establish a new research management unit within SST, which is exactly what we did more than a year ago. And of course, after having established this new research management unit, which is called ORPA, we call it ORPA in between us, okay? We've been doing many activities in order to support the capacity building activities of SST and also to share good practices and share common obstacles and so on. Exactly for this reason, one of the activity that was programmed one of the activity that was programmed within work package number 5 and its task was to organize international working group, with representative from all the countries involved in EDIRE, in order to discuss crucial issue in research management. Those issues, according to our project as we designed it at the beginning, were research funding and fundraising, research management, IPR, ethics, and so on. And of course, the idea behind this was also to involve later, possibly in the conversation, other representatives from research institution in Western Balkans. So the first part of course, then we had somehow to discuss on how to implement this activity. And the first part was to try to discuss and understand by having a conversation about it with SST specifically and the newly established research management unit to understand the priorities for SST. According to this, we decided to focus on 3 main areas and we created 3 different working groups. The first one was on research funding and fundraising. The second one regarding research management and IPR, and the third one on ethics. After having created these 3 working groups, we asked our partner university to nominate experts from their own institution to participate in this activity. The activities were structured as you can see. We started in May, and the duration of this whole activity, we can say that it lasted 4 months approximately, so the whole summer, and we ended up in September. We had a general meeting, introductory meeting, I would say, on May, and that meeting saw the participation of the whole the people involved from the 3 working groups, and then we split it in working groups. The second meeting was dedicated to the idea of sharing good practices, while the second one divided in group, third one general, was dedicated to obstacles and challenges. And then we also had a final meeting to discuss the main outcomes of the working group. So there was again a plenary session in September. Here you can see some of the questions that guided, I would say, our work into the different working group in order to explore good practices, but also obstacles. And the idea behind it was somehow to discuss common similarities, strategies, and learn from each other. So what about today? Well, today SST will present its own view on the work of international working group activity, and they will present on these 3 different areas some good practices that SST might share with other representatives from Western Balkans, but also the obstacles or challenges that they are still facing in the framework of our project. So we hope that this meeting could be useful to start a conversation in the region regarding this key topic in the area of research. Thanks for the attention. That was my introduction. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Carla. So going through our agenda, so the next thing is the first contribution from SSST, and that is going to be presented by our Professor Maja Savć-Bojanić, who is also the Dean of our Political Science Department here at the university, and also involved in the ethics committee, university committee. So she will talk about ethics-related practices that are of interest of our today's meeting. So Maja, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here and thank you for joining in such a large number. Just before I start, a quick warning, I have a class to teach at 11 o'clock, so I will have to leave shortly after my presentation. And please don't mind that because it's the end of the semester and I have to finish all the teaching lessons that I have. So today, I will be speaking about ethics at SSST, some of the ethical procedures that we have in place, the ethical committee, but also some of the new things that we had to introduce considering academic integrity and the use of AI. And this is quite a new thing for us, so I will give some attention to that as well. So as some of you know, but others who are just joining for the first time, at SSST, we have had in place for several years now an ethical committee, which we created in order to ensure that all research conducted either by staff or students, especially postgraduate students, went through a procedure that would ensure the dignity and safety of the participants, especially if research or their research involves humans or human specimen or any sort of sensitive data for that matter. So when we established the ethical committee, we were greatly guided by the already existing principles, rules, and regulations that were created by our collaborative university, the University of Buckingham from the UK. So we established our own, together just by combining the rules of protection of participants from Buckingham, we also created our own, adding things that are culture specific and context specific, considering that we are working in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious context here in Bosnia, where that sort of data is considered sensitive. So we established the ethical committee together with some of the already adopted principles and regulations from the University of Buckingham, but also by creating our own. So within that, just as any ethical committee would work, within that we offer advice and support for researchers, especially young researchers. We approve or reject research projects, turn them back if there's some data or information missing. But our aim is also to promote ethical awareness, and that's precisely what I'm going to talk about later on with the AI and also what happens with incidental findings. The ethical committee works in a network of internal and external partners. That's already something that I said with University of Buckingham, but also our collaborative universities that we work with on different research projects, especially recently also within the cost action frameworks, where this is going to be very important for the research that is conducted by our staff and participating also students. The primary goal of the SSSC Ethical Committee is to ensure that all research that we conduct adheres to these ethical standards. And actually, this time of year is very busy for the Ethical Committee at SSSD, because we are getting a lot of applications from students from BA level, postgraduate and doctoral applicants, because of their upcoming either end of semester for undergraduate students and their term papers, and the annual review for all our postgraduate students. So it's quite a busy time for us. And as I said at the beginning, it applies to all research that involves human subjects. So not just the medical school, but also social sciences, especially if we have students or staff working with vulnerable groups. One of the things that we had to integrate, unfortunately, because of the culture of academic dishonesty that is prevalent, mostly outside of the university. This is something we have regulated very strictly here. And the academic dishonesty procedure is described in our student book of regulations. It is a very detailed explanation, so I will not go into such great specifics about it. But basically, what I want to underline is that we do use anti-plagiarism software for checking against the databases of existing material. We use Turnitin for all the written work, no matter on which level we're speaking here. So from BA to PhD, especially term papers and dissertations, theses have to be checked against academic dishonesty or plagiarism. And recently, we've also had to deal with AI-enabled dishonesty. So maybe some of you remember that at the meeting in September, I mentioned that we were updating our rules and procedures about this, and we have done it. So it is now also included in our book of regulations. Again, here we were greatly helped by our partners at Buckingham, and this is how we deal with it. First of all, I want to say that the use of AI tools is not strictly prohibited, and we have made our students aware that it's actually a very powerful tool that they may use, but for certain purposes. And now, just briefly, I will go into that at my next slide. But we also want them to know, especially bachelor level students, that AI can provide misleading or incorrect information. And really, in that sense, it negatively impacts their own thinking process and ultimately their learning experience. So this little quotation here is something that was integrated and is clearly communicated to students. So it says that unless the assessment guidance instructs you otherwise, it is important you do not use AI tools to generate an essay or other form of written assessment and submit it as if it was your own work. And in this page, I explain how AI might be used and how to acknowledge that you have used it. So this is something that we communicated to our students. There's a lot more detail. And we also, as I said, focus on the ethical use of AI. In August, we had a chance of hosting a 2-day training program on the ethical use of AI through a capacity building project that we have with mostly partner universities from the Western Balkans, but also a university from Germany and a university from Greece. And it was a great learning experience for us. And as a member of the ethical committee, I also participated in it together with some other colleagues. And we were actually, that helped us a lot learn how to communicate to our students how to ethically use AI. So we tell them that it's okay if they're answering, to use AI for answering questions where answers are based on material which can be found on the internet, drafting ideas, planning for structuring written material, generating ideas for graphics, images, and visuals, reviewing and critically analyzing written materials to assess their validity, and we had the possibility to try different software, helping to improve grammar, especially if English is a second language, which is the case for the majority of our students. Experimenting with different writing styles, getting explanation, debugging code, getting over writer's block, and so on. But even if you use AI in a way that is considered, so to say, ethical, you have to, this is again something that a student needs to acknowledge and describe and reference the use of AI. First of all, how do we do that? We first have to acknowledge its use. So just by saying in this paper or in this work, this thesis, I have benefited from AI tools in this and this way. Then you have to describe how. So how the information was generated. And lastly, you must reference AI-generated content and indicate by in-text citation where material is used and was generated by AI. So it is fine to do it basically up to a certain point. And from what I know, from different research networks that I belong to, this is probably the usual way that is currently being dealt with in most European countries. But also, I would really love to hear from our other partners or anybody who has some different experience with this. So another thing that I wanted to talk about that is very important for our ethical committee and something that we didn't think of at the very beginning of the setup of the ethical committee is how to deal with incidental findings, because this is something that occurred in several of the staff's research projects, but also students. So what are incidental findings? First of all, those are findings that may require follow-up action, like indications of criminal activity, human trafficking, abuse, bullying, any sort of violence. And in the case of such finding, for a researcher, there is one quick question. So whether you keep that information to yourself and preserve confidentiality, or disclose the information to relevant authorities or any other sort of, maybe like the funding organization. So there is a need really to define a clear policy on how we deal with incidental findings. And this is something that we're still working on because, again, of the fact that oftentimes we have different funders and they have different policies on incidental findings, but we also trust that the SSSD ethical committees should also have very specific provisions on this as well. So again, if there are any thoughts or comments that would help us with this, I would greatly appreciate that you communicate them to us. And this is my last slide. So we are a small university that obviously, even though we've had this ethical committee in place for several years now, there are still challenges. First of all, we work in a context where plagiarism is still widely accepted. It is, and it's not accepted just because it is accepted, but because there is a severe lack of knowledge about what constitutes plagiarism, and just the very ethical procedure, just the consent form is in many places still something that is not understood really well. So international ethical practices are not at all harmonized with the local legislation. This lack of awareness is specifically evident among undergraduate students because they come out of local high school contexts, and these local academic practices are either non-existent or are weakly present, and thus they're not harmonized with international good practices. So the main objective really that we the message that we want to really convey is that all research that is conducted at SSSD and on behalf of SSSD staff and students meet these ethical standards that are on the European level, obviously also because we do offer double degrees. So the challenges in this regard arise from different ethical standards that students have to comply with. And really the ethical committee has done a great job, in my opinion. I've been a member since the very beginning with assuring this and really raising awareness about this. So students, when they talk to each other, are already aware, and they know even if they haven't gone through the procedure, they are aware of the procedure. So this is one thing that is done well, but again, challenges remain. And again, there is the uncontrolled use of AI due to lack of education, how to ethically use AI. And we're just starting with workshops. As I said, we had this 2-day training that benefited our students, our library staff, our researchers, and also our academic staff. And we hope to continue with that as these tools develop also and penetrate the academic realm in other ways that we still don't know. So with that, I will finish, and I thank you for your attention.
Okay, thanks very much, Maya, at presenting SSSD ethical practices and challenges. And maybe, you know, as Maya will have to take off for the for teaching of her class, if you have any questions, you can direct them to me, and if I can't answer, I will actually forward them to Maya. So just so you know. Thanks very much, Maya.
Thanks, Maya.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next presentation is by the director of ORPA, which stands for Office of Research and Project Administration at SSSD, so Mr. Edis Arifagic. And the next topic that we will hear about is about research funding and fundraising. So Edis, the floor is yours now.
Good morning, everyone. I've decided to combine the two presentations. Basically, we're supposed to be discussing research management and fundraising. So I'm just going to go ahead and present both segments so we don't break up the flow of the meeting. I think it's better for context if I present the research management part first, because it provides a bit of background and a bit of context for our fundraising efforts that are ongoing and as well as those that we have in the pipeline. I'm going to start off with providing some context on some ecosystem building documents that we've had to develop since we established ORPA, because in parallel, several things were happening. SSSD was previously heavily teaching oriented, so there was not as much research going on, and there was a decision by senior leadership of the university to delve much more into research, which coincided with EDIRE being endorsed. So it was something of a happy coincidence for us. So we were able to build together all of these various elements and make them work harmoniously as much as possible. So the first thing that we did as part of the senior leadership group at the university, we adopted the underlying vision for research as part of the overall university mission. The idea was to have a driving force for the development of the research ecosystem at SSSD, and it was important to explicitly state our commitment to research excellence. Now, this next slide basically provides a summary of the research underlying vision for the university. There's a lot of big words in there, a lot of phrases that you're familiar with: research excellence, state-of-the-art infrastructure, and all of these factors are important for us, and they're vital in us helping to establish SSSD as an institution where research is valued as highly as teaching. But it does also very much take into consideration the context in which we're trying to build SSSD into an institution of higher learning where research has a very prominent role. We also understand through this statement the role that SSST plays in community and society as a whole, because as I'm sure you know, we are still very much in a state of flux, politically, economically, socially. Our institutions are considered traditionally to be extremely weak and fragmented, so universities such as our own provide a vital service to society and community as acting as pillars and drivers of social and economic change. Now, this underlying vision needs to be operationalized, and we needed to very explicitly state what are the guiding principles that will help us get to our end goal of SSST as an institution of research excellence. So the first thing that we realized is that we need to invest in networks. We need to build relationships. We need to build bridges with other institutions of higher learning, with research institutes, with the private sector, with the public sector, with non-governmental organizations. So this was something that was stated as a very critical goal for us going forward at the university and our office in specific. We needed to ensure that whatever externally available research funding was being used as efficiently as possible, and that it was used and utilized in a manner that contributed to the implementation of the overall university mission. Trying to basically get beyond the silo mentality, where each academic department was focused, and each PI was focused more on the individual deliverables for the projects, rather than how they contribute to establishing an overall positive climate at the university itself. Internal research capabilities were assessed as relatively limited. So there was a very conscious push to try and develop our research capabilities, both at HR level, but also in terms of infrastructure, in line with the thematic areas of strategic interest for the university, not just in the segment of research, but the academic department as well. We were also very much aware of the need to top up our available external funding opportunities with business development, basically reaching out to what we call real-world partners, the business community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as development actors, to try and generate additional interest in what we were trying to do, and secure additional funding for projects that we felt were of vital societal and economic interest. As part of this, we developed a policy of externally sponsored research that will serve as a guide, basically a blueprint for all aspiring researchers at SSST to follow. Now, the policy and our work in this regard focused on the following key elements in the research ecosystem at the university, because just keep in mind that this is all happening parallel to the office being established. So there's a lot of work being done simultaneously. We're trying to set up an organizational unit that's going to serve as a clearinghouse for all research and business development work at the university, while trying to set up all of these SOPs and various policies that will help guide the work of the university in this regard in a very predictable and effective manner. So the policy on externally sponsored research sets out 5 principal elements of the research ecosystem at the university. We have the principal researcher as the person that drives the process forward. We have the management of academic department in the form of deans, which provide overall programmatic coherence, quality assurance, and provide programmatic and subject matter support to the researchers themselves. We have the Office of Research and project management in this regard, because we also do a lot of project management, as you'll see ourselves, which is, as I say, this platform through which all of this work will be channeled and all of the support will be provided. We have the admin support units which work horizontally across the board, Office of Legal Affairs, Finance, and so forth. And finally, we have the executive director, who basically tries to pull all of these elements together based on the work that ORPA puts together. Now, about the office itself, Carla mentioned that we were set up in 2023. So we are a very new operation that has a lot of lofty and ambitious objectives. And as I said, we had to hit the ground running, setting up staff and infrastructure while delving into simultaneously building networks, writing proposals, assisting with implementation of projects that have already been going on. Just to give you a demonstration of the workload, when we had set up the office, we had about 7 projects that were running at various stages. Now we have about 23. So the work in this regard has more than tripled. Now, in terms of the capabilities of the office itself, we were a 2-person operation for a long time, and now we are up to 4 people, 2 out of which are designated directly to working with individual projects. So basically, it's not really 4 people doing all of this work. It's more or less 1.5 or 2, depending on an availability. So the mission of ORPA sets out the following key functions. We provide pre-award support, post-award support, project implementation, which I will discuss in a little bit more detail as we move on with the presentation. We facilitate academic and research mobility through Erasmus and other schemes. We work to internationalize the university as much as possible, trying to reach out and build these networks. We built relationships with local business and public sector communities, and we also manage associated project infrastructure. So as a result of our work over the past several years, we have created several research and project-driven structures. One is the university's Digital Innovation Hub, which we're hoping to grow into a European Digital Innovation Hub in 2025. We're preparing an application right now as we speak that's supposed to go in on Friday, where hopefully SSSD will lead the consortium for the first European Digital Innovation Hub in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because the country finally signed Digital Europe this year. So we're hoping to make use of this new opportunity. We also run the Entrepreneurship Innovation Lab, because we like to think of SSSD as an entrepreneurial university that has its own investment fund and acceleration facilities. That is all managed through ORPA. And finally, we have the Green Agenda Innovation Accelerator, which is basically an SME facing platform that helps companies use opportunities provided by the green transition. So basically, as you can see from this, there's a heavy programmatic focus on what we do on green and digital, because these are the emerging opportunities as far as we're concerned on the donor landscape. I'll go back to this when we start discussing fundraising as part of the research process. These are the 3 main service lines. This is the information that I more or less covered in my previous slide, but it will give you a better idea of the threefold mission that the office has. So we have admin compliance and programmatic support, where we work on everything from identification of funding opportunities through to the implementation of projects, but also project closure. Under project implementation, we do the direct work, where we as ORPA, not the researchers, and this is a very important distinction, we basically do the project proposal writing and fundraising ourselves. And this is largely something that happens with our development partners here locally in the form of bilateral and multilateral agencies. I have a little bit of a cold, so just bear with me. And finally, we have networking and collaboration, which is a very important aspect of our work, where we try to build our original network that was relatively modest, and we're trying to build it into something that's a bit more robust. I'm going to run you through our duties and our responsibilities and our mission across some of the key functions we have in the research process. A lot of this is the result of the assistance we've received from our partners through EDIRE, helping us maybe identify and highlight those functions that are especially critical to an emerging research ecosystem, trying to identify gaps within our research capabilities, research support capabilities, and try to basically address them through our own work. In the pre-award phase, we work a lot on the identification of external research funding. We do this through both scoping by the principal researcher, but also by ORPA. We have this practice that we've introduced now, where either annually or biannually we do a funding scan, which is basically the identification of all the relevant EU calls that will be coming out over the next 6 or 12 months, where we can try and exploit opportunities for funding, so we can start preparing in a timely manner both the proposals themselves, but also the partnership frameworks to make sure that we get an early start. We've introduced the practice of departmental review, making sure that project proposals are received endorsement by the deans of relevant academic departments, again, to ensure that there is some coherence happening at departmental level, and that we can ensure that there is, again, coherence and harmonization with our overall university research objectives. The full application is ultimately prepared working through ORPA and with all the admin units. Budget development has proven especially problematic for our researchers. They've had relatively little experience in this regard, so this is something that we focused on pretty heavily over the past 18 months, trying to work on developing these budgets jointly, which brings me nicely as a segue to my next point, where we've done quite a bit of on-the-job training, especially in proposal writing and budget preparation. Again, an area where collective training, as much as we've offered it, and we've had it, especially with the Department of Medicine on a regular basis, we've seen that there's a lot more constructive response, and there's a lot more interest if we're doing it one-on-one. It is a drain on our resources, but we've seen that researchers or research groups respond much better to sitting down and going over the proposal one-on-one over a period of a couple of hours, couple of days, even a couple of weeks for the ideas to gestate, and then they come back, and then we work with them. Initially, we had this practice of open clinics a couple of times a week, but we've realized that with the academic schedule being what it is, we basically operate an open door policy 24/7, where people can come with us with ideas from a very early stage, and then we can help build these proposals. And we've seen a growth in capability by our researchers that are now requiring less and less assistance from us because we've put in the work early. Over the past year, I think we've had over 30 different proposals, which is a pretty steep increase to what we've had before. Not all of them were great, but a lot of them have shown improvement compared to previous years. In terms of the post-award phase, we have basically provided direct support to researchers in 9 out of 10 cases as the Office of Research. There's been a great need for assistance with implementation, not just in terms of providing backstopping and admin, but also with the organization of project activities, preparation of documents, writing of reports, and just ensuring that there's overall programmatic coherence, because as we keep saying, we are a very small university. We are a small university with a lot of teaching obligations. So we need to make sure that the researchers that we do have and that are committed to doing research can actually do as much of it as possible. So we try and take on as much of the admin workload as possible, and also logistical arrangements in terms of, for example, event organization or the preparation of research and data collection, for instance. Now, we also monitor compliance to ensure that the relevant financial and narrative reporting requirements are met in full. This is another area that's not a strength for a lot of our researchers. Financial reporting is something that they tend to struggle with, which speaks to their relationship with budget preparation as well. But the more we expose them to budget preparation, the more they are likely to be able to tackle financial reporting requirements as well. ORPA has taken on a lot of record keeping, because previously a lot of the project documentation and project records were kept at either research or departmental level, which created problems with institutional memory, with staff turnover. So we're basically backstopping all the archives at ORPA for all the projects. And we also provide support with project closure, looking over financial reports and making sure that any transfer of title, transfer of property, tech transfer has happened in line with contractual requirements, because again, we also do a lot of contract management on behalf of the project. Now, the last item here I've highlighted because this is a critical component that's still very much a work in progress. We need to invest much more in programmatic oversight, quality assurance, and overall coherence at departmental level. This is not a slight at our departmental teams. It's just a statement that acknowledges the heavy workload that our academic management is exposed to. So this is something that we'll need to facilitate a little better in the future. The next slide addresses the slightly non-standard bit of work that ORPA does. So in addition to the research support functions that we perform, we're basically a project implementation unit for the university that does a lot of business development that's unrelated to the scientific side of the house. We manage it directly ourselves. We write these proposals ourselves, and we submit them to both bilateral and multilateral donors here locally. So, as you know, Bosnia is still very much an area of hot interest for development actors. Every year, about $1 billion is put in development funding from various sources, IFIs, international finance institutions, European Union, bilateral development actors such as SDC and SIDA, Norwegian Embassy. So we try to take as many opportunities as possible to mobilize funding through applying for these open calls. We've been pretty successful. Now we have a portfolio supported by 5 different donors. They include Swiss government. We have 3 projects with the German government and the EU. We basically have more projects than donors because we have individual donors that support more than one intervention. A lot of these interventions are private sector facing. We're basically taking on the role of surrogate government in some instances, where a lot of this funding would have gone to government institutions that were supposed to provide the support to the private sector, because of the way our institutional setup operates or doesn't operate, a lot of these roles are performed by non-traditional actors such as SSSD. A lot of these are thematically focused on ICT, green, and digital. These are also coincidentally areas of strategic interest for the university. So we're kind of developing along with building our capabilities. We've been able to invest about 700,000 euro that were mobilized through these projects into research infrastructure, state-of-the-art labs that were created simply as a result of being able to mobilize this funding from non-traditional development partners. As I've said, these activities are not strictly scientific in characters, but are feeding research in terms of data and access, as well as funding in the form of overheads that the institution is able to secure through these processes. Now, the next slide, I'm going to cut it relatively short here because I'm mindful of the time that we have. Now, challenges in terms of research support and research in general at SSSD, I think I've touched on a fair few of those, but I'd like to restate these 4 because I think they're critical in us deciding how to move forward. I think we still have an issue with capacity of our staff to write proposals, to write various types of proposals. Some of them continue to struggle with project logic, so we're having to sit down with them and describe the logical frameworks, describe hierarchies of objectives, not just the budgets themselves. But again, it's a work in progress. We don't expect this to happen overnight. Lesson learned for us is that group exercises, group workshops, group seminars are not nearly as effective as capacity building at individual researcher level or research groups, as has been the case with our Sarajevo Medical School, where we basically bring groups of researchers with a common interest together, and then we provide a one-on-one sit down with them and try to help them develop even not actual proposals, but basically role play proposals, where we simulate the proposal writing process for them to be able to better understand the requirements themselves. We need to further develop regional and international networks. What we've been able to to deduce with absolute certainty over the past 2 years is the fact that, you know, the more institutions you know, the more people you know, the much more likely you are to be able to access funding opportunities, because we are still a country that's on the periphery. We are still a small university, a private university that also restricts additionally some of our prospective avenues of funding. So it's something that definitely needs further work on, and this is something we are relying on our international partners to help us facilitate, because although again we are small, but we have a pretty diverse portfolio of interest, and we do have some pretty good standing capabilities and networks that we can bring to bear, both in terms of our academic and research community, but also in terms of real-world actors. For example, we were able to bring in 2 of the largest companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina on a Horizon proposal last year. And by that I mean 2 of the largest companies in terms of both turnover and in terms of number of employees. So that our industry relationships are a huge asset to us as we move forward. Again, access to external research funding is severely restricted. There's very little money, national money, going into research and innovation. I think about 1/10 of the EU average. I'm going to discuss this in the next part of the presentation that deals specifically with fundraising. But this is a catch-22 situation. We are caught in this vicious cycle where, you know, we want to build our research portfolio, but in order to build our research portfolio, we need access to research funding, but in order to get research funding, we need more research experience. So we need to somehow find a way to circumvent this vicious cycle. We've done pretty well for ourselves, but I think we are also very happy to take the next step and maybe build our portfolio further. And finally, as I've said previously, we are a teaching university, traditionally. This is something we're changing, and this is something we've been able to change up to a point, but this is a factor that needs considering. Our faculty tends to have pretty heavy teaching commitments, which limits their research availability and their ability to take part in writing and delivering proposals. So it's something that we're taking up as a senior leadership group. We're trying to figure out how best to utilize our available resources and how to take some especially promising members of faculty, relieve them of some of their teaching roles and heavy workloads, and have them focus a little bit more on research. Now, I think that's it as far as the research support, the research management part of the presentation is concerned. Maybe we take a Q&A break here, if there are any.
Sure. Thank you very much, Edis, for this detailed presentation. And maybe, you know, for the sake of, you know, breaking up a little bit, we can take a question if there are any. No, I don't see any. So maybe, Edis, you can just continue with the second part.
Yeah. This is generally a sign of either a very good presentation or a very bad presentation when there are no questions. So I'm gonna pretend that it's the former.
This is not a problem that you are clear, and for instance, I know more or less the situation of Orkla, and it is no question for this reason. Thank you, Edis.
Well, of course you would, because you've been with us every part of the way. Thank you. This bit is the challenging bit. Ultimately, as I said, it's a chicken and egg type of situation. So we'd like to be able to get more access to funding, because this will also help motivate our researchers. A lot of the conversations that take part around our ability to develop and deliver research has always revolved around the fact that, you know, our faculty writes a lot of proposals, but we don't really get a lot of funding. There's a lot of negative responses, a lot of rejections, and people don't necessarily deal with it very well. So we're having to also build awareness and change mentality and mindset to say, you know, not every proposal you write will be successful. Actually, the vast majority of them will not receive funding, but it's, you know, it's a game of numbers. The more you write, the more you put in, the more likely you are to build a network for the next successful proposal. So as far as the current funding review is concerned, I wanted to start you off with basically demonstrating how incredibly diverse our funding landscape is right now, and where all we receive our funding from, and where we're forced to actually go out and actively fundraise. And I think it's pretty different to what's happening across most of your institution. European Union, of course, and this is the shared bit where we've all have had the privilege of benefiting from the EU's generosity in supporting research and innovation activities. We have quite a few projects that are funded through Erasmus, and we also have two Horizon projects that are ongoing. And this is where we are feeling very much the benefits of EU funding. We're working on a new COSME proposal right now, so we're hoping to also dip our toes into that one as well. I think we've put in, over the past 6 months, we've put in another dozen proposals for EU funding. So we're going to be waiting to see what's happening there, and we still have a few to submit this month. So we have as one part of our funding. Then we have subnational research support funds. I say subnational because whatever funding is available at national and entity level, because for those of you not familiar, we have the privilege of living under 5 levels of government in Bosnia and Herzegovina as a result of the mediated constitution that ended the war in the country. So the as I said, institutional framework is extremely fragmented, but even between those various levels of government, very little funding is provided for research and innovation, and what little funding is provided often comes with strings attached, and we, as a private institution, we're also not eligible for all of those calls. So even the little research and innovation funding that there is in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there are some pots and some lots that we're not eligible for. So this is not something that where we can fund any significant research from. Actually, we've made a decision that we won't be even applying next year for some of these calls, because the amounts of money that we're getting can't even fund basic research, and we're actually having to lose money on some of these projects and without actually delivering what we need to deliver. So we will probably streamline and not pursue national research funding sources as we have in the past. A lot of our funding comes from bilateral donors. I've mentioned them already. We have Germany that presently supports 4 of our projects in the form of GIZ, their development agency, and also the German federal government. We have the Swiss, who support our regional challenge fund project, the Rewire Institute, and we also have Saudi Arabia, which supports the construction of a national research institute that's supposed to, if we manage to push this project through, again for political consideration, it's going to be a game changer for us in terms of the infrastructure that we'll be able to purchase through this funding. We work with development cooperation actors to include UNDP and Islamic Development Bank. As you can see from what I'm throwing out there, it's a very diverse pot, as I've said, of donors. We also work with local industry. We try to whet their beak or generate some organic interest in the work we do on a commercial basis. Have local companies interested in some of our products or some of the things that we're developing through associated infrastructure at the university. We have some promising startups that have garnered a fair bit of interest and a fair bit of financing. So this is also coming through ORPA and our business development side of the house. And we also pursue high net worth individuals and endowments. We've been relatively successful in securing some research funding, reaching out to individuals who have charitable operations that operate on the basis of supporting research and supporting academic excellence in countries that are of low to middle income, which we are. And of course, we do have a lot of links from the conflict, and there's a lot of still awareness globally that Bosnia and Herzegovina is in a difficult political moment. So we've been able to maybe capitalize on this interest to raise some funding in this regard. The fundraising landscape as it stands right now is not greatly encouraging from a local and national perspective. The country itself sets aside less than a tenth of the EU average for research funding, so this is unlikely to change. It's 0.19% of the GDP. And that's even being generous because a lot of the funding that's being counted there, it's not really going into research and innovation, it's going into supporting projects that have been mislabeled and that are more education rather than research. So this is unlikely to change. We are unlikely to see a significant boost in funding coming from national or subnational governments, so we'll have to continue relying on international funding sources. As I said before, we conduct this annual funding scan that we work with on an EU partner, Funding Box. This is a company out of Spain that works a lot with identifying and supporting institutions, universities in particular, with accessing EU funding. This is something we've been able to secure free of charge through some of our donor connections. This is important as we develop now as of 2025, we will be developing fundraising plans for the university. So each department will be given a target in terms of both the number of proposals and also financial envelopes that will need to be generated. And the deans together with ORPA will be responsible for monitoring and ensuring compliance. We have more than 100 industry partnerships in place. We're working on innovative product and service design. This is something we have high hopes for as something that will supplement our income and give us a little bit more leeway in investing in research and innovation. And finally, we have development partnerships that provide steady research funding. We've already negotiated 3 new interventions for 2025. 2025 is going to see us bringing in about €1 million in development funding, which for us is a pretty sizable number. And this is the work that will be done through the project implementation unit in ORPA, bringing in academic departments on a part-time basis. In terms of the management of research funding, we are still in the process of putting in all the protocols and standard operating procedures. The funding is managed basically on the nexus of the principal primary investigator, ORPA, and the Office of Financial Management, where we're trying to find the most optimal modalities to ensure both efficiency and effectiveness, but also transparency and accountability. We're putting in separate internal control mechanisms to monitor and oversee how project funding is being dispersed and implemented, especially because in the previous years, there wasn't as much money coming in from projects, so it was more of a case-by-case basis. Now we're putting in firm protocols and SOPs to ensure that this is done in a predictable and transparent manner. We're providing trainings for university researchers on accessing and managing research funding. Again, mostly happening on a one-to-one setting, trying to basically build those capabilities for financial planning, implementation, and reporting. This is it more or less from my side. I think it took slightly more time than I was slotted to, but I felt like I needed to therapeutically share these things with you.
No, Edis, you're just in time. Actually, we are, very sharp on the agenda, so it's perfect timing. Yes. Thanks very much for sharing the developments and some of the future plans at the university. And we have time now for some questions and discussions. So you've heard, what the SSST experience has been thus far, and where are we going in terms of these 3 topics. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or advice, but I just also for the Maya is not here, but she also asked me to underline how crucial the involvement in the EDIRE International Group has been to actually get wrap our head around it, you know, what we are doing here at SSST and how is that relevant to the EU landscape and how our partners are doing it. So, you know, the EDIRE has been sharing the knowledge with EDIRE on this important subject has been also very beneficial to assure us that the things we are doing, some of the things we are doing are right, but then also open the window towards the new challenges. And of course, as she pointed out in her presentation, you know, ethics in AI is a huge challenge that everybody is really working on. So it's really a work in progress for everyone. But it's at least, you know, we are all learning to accept it now, you know, so we're not like running away from AI. Everybody, like, we're very comfortable with it being the new tool and being something that we are going to adopt, but we just have to put a lot of effort in figuring out how to do it ethically and how to really make the best possible use of this great new tool that we have with us. Okay, so any questions or thoughts about any of these topics?
Yeah, Jasvika and yeah, Maya. So if you are not in the ready, thank this moment for this presentation because they complete the activity of our package 5, and obviously we are greater than we are in a condition now it's possible to conclude these activities. And my opinion, it is necessary, and especially the last part of the presentation of Edis indicates that the collaboration necessary that continues, especially for the support, and also to increase the capacity of SST to be present in the global vision of the European project, of course. Relative to the presentation of Maya, correlated to the aspect of the incidental findings, probably I propose you an internal meeting to present the activity that now we are doing to support the students and the teachers and the personal, technical personnel in this case. And it is a new activity with the support also of the Regione Liguria, that is in a collaboration that is not only for the university, but is also correlated to the territory. And obviously it is the main focus is the contrast of the violence and harassment that are present, unfortunately, also in the academic environment. While for EDIS, obviously the last part, the possibility to support in an assistant to writing process to include, especially for the young researchers, course when it is possible to improve the capacity, we are able, we are ready, and for any support, you know that with Cinzia and Carla, we are able to do, and also Francesca, because Francesca spent 2-3 days in Sarajevo and describe the different approach of this. Then if you wanted to can repeat this type of meeting, we are here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Angela, for your continuous support. You know, EDIRE is such a great project, but also, you know, I'm so happy that we have such great collaborative environment and everybody is sharing their experience so openly. So it's been really, really helpful. And we also
May just very quickly, it's something I meant to do during my presentation, but I neglected to do it. A really huge thank you to our colleagues from TUD. We had an incredible September thanks to them. They were here in the course of 2 weeks, and it was an eye-opening visit in many different respects. But I think it really shown a light on some of the systemic issues that we're facing in our work, and they were extremely practical in offering up solutions. And I think we're looking at 2025 as a year where we will be implementing some of these recommendations directly, such as a research information system, because of the sheer volume of work we're having to deal with now. That's going to be a direct result of something we'll be doing based on the work we've done with our PUD team.
But obviously, all partners of EDIRE, I spoke for Genoa because we spent the time in from the partners of Genoa, but also the University of Dublin, University of Reims, University of Madrid, all partners have worked on this. And obviously, each partners participates to support according to past experience, and also for the period in which we spend the time there as SST. Obviously, people present different question, obviously according to the period, because the question in May can be different from the question in December, because you are at the end of the year, you have or you have so different call, then it's possible. Then thank you very much, Edis, because obviously at this time now we have your presentation, and then we conclude this activity, obviously. And obviously I thank all partners, because we are obviously a group, we have a team, and not only SST or only UNIGE, we are all. Okay, thanks.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so we have one question. Mirela Spahic, very nice to see you. And yes, if you can go ahead and tell us your thoughts.
Yes, so thank you all for this presentation. So it is related to Maya's presentation, but maybe somebody else also can jump in. So she mentioned that international ethical practices are not aligned with our local legislation. Does that indicate that our local legislation is lacking more clarity, or it's actually outdated?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so yeah, well, legislation, I can, I will channel this to Maya if you're not happy with my answer, but we don't have too much legislation, per se, that is about these topics, but the common practices are the problem, so, it is, unfortunately, it's really rooted, in the country here, a lot of unethical practices. So going from what is normal, so to speak, in educational system to something that is more ethical, this is a challenge. So it's not so much in the legislation as much as it is in the common practices.
Thank you. So I guess that is the burning question that needs to be addressed and probably try to be resolved in order to get any other steps further from there. Is there some working group that is trying to maybe enhance that a little bit more or something like that?
Yeah, well, yes, we, at our university, we have this ethical committee that, we have that's on the university level, but then also, we have different parts of it that are parts of the faculties, and we continue, to advance. And I must say, SSST is maybe a bit different, because we really, we don't tolerate this non-ethical structures. So, and that's been really from the day one. But then, addressing this further, especially with the AI, is our next step. So we continue this process, but also as you are somebody who's from outside, from this group, but from Bosnia. Just so you know, we have your mailing. You are on our mailing list, and as we disseminate, more practices, and as there are more developments in EDIRE, we will certainly update you, and you will hear. And you're welcome to join any of the future discussions and developments that we are going to present.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, any other comments? So if not, maybe I can close this session. First of all, thanking all the contributors for preparing their contribution and sharing all the insightful information. And also, this is our last and final year of EDIRE. The first 2 years have been really a huge learning process, and right now it's our last year, but it's the most productive year where we can really turn all the experience, all the discussions into tangible outcomes that are really going to enhance our research environment, but then also with the special aim that we have with strengthening equality, diversity, and inclusion. So please stay tuned for more of these practices. Follow us, on our dissemination channels, on our social media, website, and so forth. And thank you for being with us this morning, and hope to have some more productive time spent together soon.
Yasminka, sorry, the slide will be on the Dropbox.
Yes. I already have all the slides, and I will put them on the Dropbox so all the partners can access them.
Thank you very
No
much.
problem. No problem.
Thank you all, and just a final appeal from my end. Keep us in mind, don't forget about us. I know the project is ending, but we're still going to be very much in need of your kind support and encouragement, so.
Yes.
Hopefully see you
Good
soon.
point. It is. Yes. Okay, so thank you all so much.
Thanks
And
also
let's
for
keep
the
in
people
touch.
that is inside of ORPA that I think that are on the study, in the room with Edith. Hi, see you. Thanks also for your job. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.